Live from the BDN Studios, it's Bang and Dang.
That's awesome.
If you don't like that, then
You ain't black.
Back for another episode of Outlaws and Gunslingers, and this might be a long one, guys, as this one is, I think I've heard of this story before, but not the in-depth stuff, because this one, yeah, you want to hear details.
There's a movie about it, didn't they? In the early 60s, I mean?
There
I think
could
I've seen it on the Stars Western package that they got for Stars.
Why would it be Westerns? It's in 1950.
Yeah, but everything back then is like an old, it was classic, sorry.
Right.
Western classic.
I don't know about the Westerns, but yeah, and we've all heard about it, because I think this is where,
TCM.
pretty sure this is the one where, I'll tell you right now, because all these people that we're doing the Great Brinks Robbery, so all these people wear Halloween masks and stuff that go and rob them, and I think every heist movie has duplicated the wearing the crazy Halloween masks is doing this, so I'm pretty sure that's where they got this stuff from. So yeah, the Great Brinks Robbery here on Outlaws and Gunslingers, which happened shortly before 7:30 on the evening of January 17th, 1950, when a group of armed masked men emerged from 165 Prince Street in Boston, Massachusetts, dragging bags containing $1.2 million in cash.
They're dragging
it.
That shit's heavy.
And $1.5 million in checks, money orders, and other securities.
I mean, what are you going to do with checks and money orders? I don't understand.
Oh, you'll cash the right place will cash them.
If the money orders are already they're already made out to a certain company, you can't just cash
Yeah, but
them.
the money orders go to banks. You can cash in a money order.
I don't think you can.
All you gotta do is forge the person's signature on the other end of it.
And it's already done. That's why they're at the bank, right?
Not necessarily.
Oh no, they're in the,
Right. I don't think they have to be.
they're at a bank. Yeah, they're at a bank.
Money orders are cashed.
Oh, the Brinks. So they're talking about the Brinks truck. Is that or right? There's
So-
no way. Once it's at a bank, it's already been cashed, and no, you can't do anything with it with a check or a money order.
Oh, we'll see. Maybe we'll say a little something about that. But these men just committed the crime of the century, the perfect crime, and the fabulous Brinks robbery, as it has become to be known.
So the crime of the century, the perfect crime, and then the fabulous Brinks robbery. I think I like the perfect crime better than the
perfect
other two.
crime, as this is so long because lots and lots and lots of stuff happened to lead up to finally these guys.
Is it really the crime of the century though? I don't know what's the crime of the century.
At this point, it had been only
Right.
1950. You know, it's the biggest bank heist probably in history.
I think the original name was the fabulous Brinks robbery, and as time went on, it came to other two.
Right. Well, at
That
720.
sounds like a 1950 headline. A fabulous Brinks robbery, right?
Or the crime of the century sounds like a
1950,
1950s
yeah,
headline.
it does
for
too.
sure.
Crime of the century with the UFO for some reason.
At 7:27 p.m., as the robber sped from the scene, a Brinks employee telephoned the Boston PD. Minutes later, police arrived at the Brinks building, and special agents of the FBI quickly joined in on the investigation. Quickly. And for those of you guys watching on Patreon right now, since we're on the podcast, I forgot that we started on Patreon, but on the podcast, starting January 1st, starting right now, actually, but officially launching January 1st, 2022.
2022.
All these Outlaws and Gunslingers shows will be unedited and in video on patreon.com/bangdang, where, as if you're watching right now, you'll see a picture of one of the masks that somebody was wearing at the scene. So and that's what you get, especially on Outlaws and Gunslingers, all the cool little pictures that what we're talking about at the time, and just put a little more visual in your mind when you're watching the episode. So
over on CCN, you'll get the edited
yeah,
podcast version.
we're going to
audio.
continue right here where you're listening to it on CCN, Creative Control Network. It'll be edited and just like you've always listened to it, but Patreon is going to be in video, unedited. So at least 30 plus minutes of us messing up or talking about straying off the path and going to talk about something else. You never know what we're going to do, but
a show on CCN could only be 48 minutes. The same exact show on here could be
we're really
2.5
recording
hours.
for about 2 hours, right?
Right.
So
You never know.
yeah, there's a lot of stuff that gets left out of there. So patreon.com/bangdang. Make sure it's only $2 a month for the Outlaws and Gunslingers, Monday Night War Along, and Lee and Corey, all on video, all unedited, $2 a month. You can't beat that.
Right. And soon enough, you never know.
Something else will be added.
Right.
You never know. So
Anyhow, at the outset, very few facts were available to the investigators. From interviews with 5 employees who the criminals had confronted, it was learned that between 5 and 7 robbers had entered the building at this time. All of them wore Navy-type pea coats, gloves, and chauffeur's caps.
Chauffeurs
Chauffeur's caps. Each robber's face was completely concealed behind a Halloween-type mask.
Mm-hmm.
To muffle their footsteps, one of the gang wore crepe-soled shoes. Crepe?
Crepe? Like a crepe?
C-R-E-P-E.
Crepe? It's crepes.
Whatever.
Like Italian, or what is it? Yeah, French crepes?
All right. And the other gang members, they wore rubbers on the bottom of their shoes.
These guys put crepes in his shoes?
Right.
What's that about?
Crazy shit.
What about that? Well, as usual, for robbers, they did little talking. They moved with studied precision, which suggested that the crime had been carefully planned and rehearsed in the preceding months. So they're like Ocean's 11.
All right.
Recreating the building in a warehouse and shit, and practicing it nonstop till you get everything right.
It's really the only thing you can do to hopefully make it go as planned. It's like preparing for a football game.
Right.
It's not going to go as planned, but we got the drift, right? Or the rift.
The rift.
Drift.
Of it. The drift. Catch your drift.
Get the rift.
Somehow the criminals had opened at least 3 and possibly 4 locked doors to gain entrance to the second floor of Brinks. Somehow, huh? Somebody was an excellent lockpick.
They all wore T-shirts that said, "We hate locked doors."
No more locked doors. Gracias.
Yeah, no more locked doors. Oh, yeah. I hate locked doors, sir. No more locked doors.
Where the 5 they opened they opened doors to gain entrance to the second floor of the Brinks building, where 5 employees were engaged in their nightly chore of checking and storing the money collected from Brinks customers that day.
Okay.
So these money orders are sent to Brinks to be sent out later. I'm betting.
Oh, so unfilled.
Right. They're not they haven't even been cashed yet. So
not even filled out or anything.
I'm sure they've been filled out. They have to be. They're getting sent. They're still in destination.
Yeah, they're not cashed yet, so that's all good money. All 5 employees had been forced at gunpoint to lie face down on the floor. They came in and said, "Lay face down on the floor.
Face down, ass up.
I have you at gunpoint." Their hands were tied behind their backs, and adhesive tape was placed around their mouths. Of course, nobody wants to hear anybody. Usually, they're just going to get those couple of criers.
And if you're watching this right now,
you don't want it.
For the podcast, you're going to see the exact adhesive tape pop up on the screen that they used in the robbery.
Here shortly. During this operation, one of the employees had lost his glasses.
Oh, no.
They later could not be found on the Brinks premises.
Oh.
As the loot was being placed in bags and stacked between the second and third doors leading to the Prince Street entrance, a buzzer sounded.
Uh-oh.
Ooh, can you imagine that? It was probably a super loud buzzer, too. The robbers removed the adhesive tape from the mouth of one of the employees and learned that the buzzer signified that someone wanted to enter the vault area.
Oh.
I mean.
Oh.
The person ringing the buzzer was a garage attendant.
Oh, okay. So he's ringing it to come up, and he's like, not knowing that there's a robbery taking place.
Right. He's like, no, it's just somebody that needs to,
Right. It's just a worker.
Now they're going to have to go get that guy.
Well, 2 of the gang members moved towards the door to capture him, but seeing the garage attendant walk away, apparently unaware that the robbery is being committed, they did not pursue him.
Right. Why draw attention?
I guess. In addition to the general descriptions received from the Brinks employees, the investigators obtained several pieces of physical evidence, which is popping up here now. They were the rope and adhesive tape used to bind and gag the employees, and a chauffeur's cap, which one of the robbers had left at the crime scene. How do you wait?
Oh no, they left the cap.
I was just say, didn't they just say earlier that the robbery had looked like it had been precision and all that stuff, and they're careless enough to leave all this stuff,
the most important stuff behind?
And this adhesive tape is metal. Yeah. Clearly could get fingerprints. I'm assuming they wore gloves if they got masks and stuff on, but you never obviously, who knows?
Doubt they wore gloves. Obviously, they left the chauffeur's hat.
I would say
with all of his hair stuck to the little fibers.
Right, exactly.
The FBI further learned that 4 revolvers had been taken by the gang. Nice. So there's armed guys in the bank there. I guess they got ran up on. They couldn't do shit, right?
Who?
They took 4 revolvers.
Taken to the robbery. They didn't take them from the bank.
Taken by the gang.
Yeah, to the robbery.
Been taken by the gang.
To the robbery. Wait.
Looks like they took guns from the people in the bank, and then the serial numbers from those guns that were taken. Right? That's what I'm saying.
I don't know. Read it.
The FBI. Okay, let's do this again. The FBI further learned that 4 revolvers had been taken by the gang. The descriptions and serial numbers of these weapons were carefully noted, since they might prove a valuable link to the men responsible for the crime.
So this reads like they know the serial numbers of the weapons, and they're going to be on the lookout for those popping up.
Right. In the hours immediately following the robbery, the underworld began to feel the heat of the investigation. So everybody's
the heat is on.
Everybody else is like, hey,
the heat is on.
It's kind of messing everybody else up.
Well, now, yeah, I mean, ain't nobody in the underworld going to take those guns if that's what we're saying here is that they were stolen from the Brinks.
From the Brinks place. Plus, that's unwanted heat by all the other people that are doing other shit because now everybody's getting looked at a little bit more, They know who's breaking laws and who's not. Well-known Boston hoodlums were picked up and questioned by police.
Popos.
From Boston, the pressure quickly spread to other cities nationwide. Probably just Eastern Coast.
Yeah, but I don't think they're questioning anybody in like Albuquerque or something.
Yeah, they're probably going to like Philly, Pittsburgh, Baltimore, New York, Jersey.
Yeah.
That would be places I would check, right? Veteran criminals throughout the United States found their activities during mid-January the subject of official inquiry.
Ooh, veteran criminals, dude.
Right. They're like,
the rookies were like, yeah, we're only rookies. We're good.
Right.
we don't need to worry about this stuff. They're not looking at us. See?
Like, this is what we've been fearing all along, guys. It's finally happening. These youngsters are screwing our whole system up. What the older guy should have done is got all together and took out.
Who's to say? We don't even know who it is yet. Who's to say that these guys aren't older guys?
Right.
First of all, so
60-some years
old. It's in Boston.
Banks.
It's in Boston in 1950, so I'm assuming it has something to do with the Irish mafia.
Right. I was going to say he's most likely Irish.
Since Brinks was located in a heavily populated tenement section, many hours were consumed in interviews to locate persons in the neighborhood who might possess information of possible value.
Right.
A systematic check of current and past Brinks employees was undertaken. Obviously, you got to start always an inside job, right? Personnel of the 3-story building housing the Brinks offices were questioned. Obviously, inquiries were made concerning salesmen, messengers, and others who had called at Brinks and might know its physical layout,
right,
as well as operational procedures. Right. So now look at they're going
everywhere. Even
people that like service refrigerators or anything they've ever serviced and any had a service call to come into that building. If they know where an entrance is or they know they've been on the second, third floor, everybody's getting interviewed already, dude.
This is like exactly like Ocean's 11 or whatever it is, pretty much.
Yeah.
Every aspect of anything down to the dish boy coming out and emptying something, or if you're robbing a restaurant.
Wow.
Down to the waitress, what time she.
Well, they did know the routines of all the floor members and shit.
That's what I'm saying.
The robbers did, but I'm talking about these are the police questioning everybody that's ever been in the building. Anybody that's ever ordered or delivered a pizza to the second floor, they probably wouldn't question him too because he knows a little bit of the layout of the building.
As well it should be.
Yeah, police. I mean, that's right. You would think.
You gotta talk to anybody and everybody. An immediate effort also was made to obtain descriptive data concerning the missing cash and securities. Immediate effort.
Immediate.
We got to have really good effort, and it has to be immediate. What would be a better word to say that? Immediate effort. I don't like the way.
They immediately set out to get descriptive data.
There you go. I don't like the word effort.
It's because you never put any in.
Brinks customers were contacted for information regarding the packaging and shipping materials they use. They're like, we need to know everything you use to package and ship materials.
Exactly what you just said.
Right. All identifying marks placed on currency and securities by the customers were noted. And appropriate stops were placed at banking institutions across the nation. So they're getting a little smart here and trying to jump on something before it turns into something, right? The way I see it.
They're trying to not have it happen again, pretty much.
Yeah, that's not a one-time thing that's happening, obviously. They're going to continue on doing it. So how are we going to stop this? What are we going to do?
Oh, okay. So they contacted all the customers and was like, did you put anything on like the notes or whatever that you sent out? So that way now they're circulating across the nation. So if this gets purchased here or tries to get cashed in here, this is from the Brinks robbery. So you guys better call us. Right. And dude, these guys are
going down to
everything. The Brinks case was front page news, obviously. Even before Brinks Incorporated offered a 100,000 Incorporated, is that a company?
I don't think there's supposed to be that comma there.
Even before Brinks Incorporated,
Brinks Inc.
I think Incorporated is a company. Even before Brinks
Was
Incorporated offered a 100,000 reward. So before Brinks did, this Incorporated company, whatever it is, offered a $100,000 reward for information leading to the arrest. Maybe it's like a parent company or something.
right.
Leading to the arrest and conviction of the persons responsible. The case had captured the imagination of millions of Americans. Imagination, yeah.
Why wouldn't you? It's 1950s.
Right. They got nothing else to do. Well-meaning persons throughout the country began sending the FBI tips. They've been sending them tips, this in quotation marks, and theories, which they hope would assist in the investigation. Yeah, there's some dude listening to the radio like, well, officers, I think this could possibly be what they did.
This
like,
could
dude,
be it.
Joe Schmo. Just,
I bet there was a lot of stuff like that.
Oh, I guarantee it was.
I guarantee it. Wow.
Yeah, I've been listening to this news story for the past week, and here's what I think.
For example, from a citizen in California.
Oh, geez, we got an example. All right.
All right, here comes a suggestion that the loot might be concealed in the Atlantic Ocean near Boston. A detailed survey of the Boston waterfront previously had been made by the FBI. Really?
Well, yeah, I can't see them stashing it in the water. They're going to want to get rid of. Well, I guess you got to sit on it for a little bit, right?
Well, they already did a survey of it before.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But still, the fact that they even did that is kind of a little outrageous. I don't think anybody's putting it in the ocean.
So there's been kind of shit like this going on for a while then, huh?
No, after this case, they've already did the waterfront. Before this guy sent in the suggestion.
Yeah, a detailed survey of the Boston waterfront had
already been made.
Okay.
Right. So they already searched the water.
Right.
Dude, they've done a lot of stuff. They don't even do this stuff nowadays. Like,
no.
Why is it so thorough? I guess $2.53 million.
Dude, back in cops were cops.
That's true. Well,
they did their job.
Well, cops were pretty dirty back then, too.
Detectives, I would say. Detectives were actually detectives. Former inmates.
How many on the detective team was the stereotypical
drunk
alcoholic, lost his family because of his job and depressed and has been.
Probably all of them.
There was at least 2 or 3 has been detectives on this case waiting to solve it so they can get their names back in the names back.
And a desperate police commissioner or whatever,
Right.
It's terrible.
Well, not terrible. At least they care enough, I guess. If only for their own benefit, at least they're getting something done, I guess.
Until they feel safe again and then they slack. Inmates at the institutions reported conversations they had overheard while incarcerated with concerns the robbing of Brinks. They're like, oh, I heard plenty of stories about people wanting to rob Brinks. I mean, which you probably gonna, right?
Right. Like how many people, first of all, yeah, how is that even credible? How many people,
the first one
how many people have been like, dude, the perfect robbery would be Brinks. I mean, I'm sure that's a dime a dozen conversations there.
It's so heavily guarded and bulletproof.
Right. Well, apparently it wasn't even guarded.
Right. I don't think it wasn't even.
What the hell was going on there?
This might have been why they made it the way it is today.
Well, it's an office building, so it wasn't even like
the truck.
But you would think even the office building, they got more, obviously millions of dollars in there. Why wouldn't it? Where are all these security guards?
That should have been heavily guarded like a military base.
You would think.
I mean, all these leads that these people said from the inmates, they all checked out, and guess what? None of them had fruits.
No fruit was yielded from those.
No fruits was yielded.
Many other types of information were received, obviously. A man of modest means in Bayonne, New Jersey, was reported to be spending large sums of money in nightclubs, buying new automobiles, and otherwise exhibiting newly found wealth. Oh, so this guy out of nowhere pops up, starts getting strippers and... Okay. A thorough investigation was made concerning his whereabouts on the evening of January 17th, 1950. He was not involved in the Brinks robbery.
Yeah, not involved in the robbery.
He could have been playing the stocks or something.
Yeah, I think he's got something.
Come on.
Else.
He could have
something else.
Could have hit the lotto. Could have hit playing the stocks or something.
I guess. If I were to come up with say I went to the casino when we go.
Isn't that crazy? This dude's just living his best life.
Right.
And then he gets a knock on the door by fucking the feds.
Right.
And
If
by freaking the feds. And
he's innocent.
Why are you spending all your money? Now he's going to hand now he's going to literally hand over his documents and his bank statements and all that shit, dude, just to prove that I didn't take part in this robbery.
I mean,
you would gladly do it if you didn't know, right?
Right. I mean, I have no problem with that. I can understand. First of all, it has to be a valid reason just because.
For one, everybody in the nation knows that this Brinks robbery just happened. I would not be even.
Especially, when something like that.
Spending a lot of money at all.
Right. When something like that.
Yeah, lay low. No matter who you are, you're innocent, legit, or you're a millionaire. You better hold off on the big spending for a while, Jack.
I would say. But that's sadly not the case.
Clearly not.
And it's usually the idiots that are doing that. They get noticed.
Well, the idiot that did it didn't have no part in it, apparently. So
Apparently.
Rumors
from the underworld pointed suspicion at several criminal gangs. Members of the Purple Gang of the 1930s, which you all know, found that there were renewed interest in their activities.
There was renewed interest in their activities.
Right.
Another
old gang, which had specialized in hijacking bootleg whiskey in Boston area during the Prohibition, became the subject of inquiries. Again, the FBI's investigation resulted merely in elimination of more possible suspects.
Hey, man, you got to do what you got to do. Cross these guys out.
What do we got to do? How far can we go back? It's 1950. We got to go at least 20 years.
Right. Cross these guys out.
How about the Purple Gang? No. Definitely not the Purple Gang. They're all what? Dead or in prison?
or old.
Right.
As hell.
Well, what about these guys that did that in Boston? Nah.
Well, many tips were received from anonymous persons, obviously, on the night of January 17th, 19... I wasn't saying obviously on the night of January 17th, but obviously from the anonymous persons tipped, obviously. On the night of January 17th, 1952, exactly 2 years after the crime occurred. This is 2 years later now. The FBI's Boston office received an anonymous telephone call from an individual who claimed he was sending a letter identifying the Brinks robbers. Information received from this individual linked 9 well-known hoodlums with the crime. After careful checking, the FBI eliminated 8 of the suspects.
Hoodlums was a widely used name back then.
After careful checking, the FBI eliminated 8 of the suspects. The 9th man had long been a principal suspect.
Of the hundreds of New England hoodlums contacted by the FBI in the weeks immediately following the robbery, few were willing to be interviewed. Occasionally, an offender who was facing a prison term would boast that he had you get me released.
Hot shit.
You get me released and drop all charges, and I'll solve the case in no time.
That's what they'd say.
Right.
One Massachusetts racketeer, a man whose moral code mirrored his long years in the underworld, confided to the agents who were interviewing him. He says, "If I knew who pulled the job, I wouldn't be talking to you now because I'd be too busy trying to figure out a way to lay my hands on some of the loot." In his determination to overlook no possibility, the FBI contacted various resorts throughout the United States for information concerning persons known to possess unusually large sums of money following the robbery. Racetracks and gambling establishments also were covered in the hope of finding some of the loot in circulation. This phase of the investigation greatly disturbed many gamblers. Of course it would. A number of them discontinued their operations. Others indicated a strong desire that the robbers be identified and apprehended. Look at them. So now they got even the gamblers about ready to turn the robber people in.
Right.
Just so they can go about their business.
The mass information gathered during the early weeks of the investigation was continuously sifted. All efforts to identify the gang members through the chauffeur's hat, the rope, and adhesive tape, which had been left in Brinks, proved unsuccessful.
So you tell me they couldn't even dust for the fingerprints that were on the metal container of the tape?
Maybe they're wearing gloves.
That's true, right? We did say that, right?
February 5th, 1950. However, a police officer in Somerville, Massachusetts, recovered one of the 4 revolvers which had been taken by the robbers. So they got one.
Oh, taken from Brinks. Right.
Investigation established that this gun, together with another rusty revolver, had been found on the 4th of February in 1950 by a group of boys who were playing on a sandbar at the edge of the Mystic River in Somerville.
So now...
So wait, they just found the rusty revolver or they found both guns?
They found it together with another rusty revolver. So this gun, along with the rusty revolver, had been found on February 4th.
By the boys. Oh,
right.
Okay. I'll take that. In Somerville.
It was because, the cop went and picked it up the next day from the boys, apparently. I don't know why it took a whole day to go get it, but...
Right.
Well, shortly after these 2 guns were found, one of them was placed in a trash barrel and was taken to the city dump. What? The other gun was picked up by the officer and identified as having been taken during the Brinks robbery. So how'd the other one get taken to a dump?
Right.
Did the boys leave him there and then... Doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, that don't make no sense right there.
A detailed search for additional weapons was made at the Mystic River. The results were negative.
Shortly after these 2 guns were...
So the boys had to have left him there, and then overnight, the rusty one got placed in a trash barrel. Who put him in the trash barrel? Wait, was one already in the trash barrel?
One of them was placed in a trash barrel, and the other was taken to the city dump. The other gun was picked up by the
One of them was
officer.
placed in a trash barrel and taken to the city dump. So did they find him? Did the boys find it in the trash barrel already, and it just before the cops got there, got taken to the city dump already, or did somebody else put it there after the boys found it?
I think the boys probably put it in there. It was probably the rusty one, and they took the good one home.
No, the officer found it at the river. The other gun was picked up by the officer. The boys just found him. I think they probably called
left
it
them there.
Yeah, I think they probably just called it in, and by the time the cops got there, the rusty or whatever one was in the barrel had already been gone to the dump.
Right, I think it was probably the rusty one. Somebody would be like, let's throw this away.
Right.
Okay. So they didn't find any more weapons at the Mystic River. Through the interviews of persons in the vicinity of the Brinks offices on the evening of the 17th of January, 1950, the FBI learned that a 1949 green Ford stake body truck with a canvas top had been parked near the Prince Street door of Brinks at approximately the time of the robbery.
Okay.
From the size of the loot and the number of men involved, it was logical that the gang might have used this truck, obviously.
Right.
This lead was pursued intensively.
Like, boys,
how many green Ford
canvas top trucks are running around there, stack body, whatever that means. On March 4th, 1950, pieces of an identical truck were found at a dump in Staunton, Massachusetts.
Really?
An acetylene torch had been used to cut up the truck, and it appeared that a sledgehammer also had been used to smash many of the heavy parts, such as the motor. Truck pieces were concealed in fiber bags when found. Had the ground not been frozen, the person or persons who abandoned the bags would probably have attempted to bury them.
Right.
Okay, so innocent people just don't chop up a car and beat the hell out of the motor with sledgehammers, right?
The truck found at the dump had been reported stolen by a Ford dealer near Fenway Park in Boston.
Oh, there we go. Fenway Park in Boston.
On the 3rd of November, 1949.
There we go.
All efforts to identify the persons responsible for the theft and the persons who had cut up the truck were unsuccessful. I mean, back then you really could. It was tough. Tough to solve these.
Well, I don't know, unless you're Bonnie and Clyde and you leave pill bottles in the truck and all that stuff,
Stupid. The fiber bags used to conceal the pieces were identified as having been used as containers for beef bones, shipped from South America to a gelatin manufacturing company in Massachusetts.
Okay, so they got to lead where the bags come from.
All right. So they know, hey, we got to look around old Massey. Somewhere in Massey, wherever.
They're already in Massey.
All right. That's right. They're in Boston. Thorough inquiries were made concerning the disposition of the bags after their receipt by the Massachusetts firm. This phase of the investigation was pursued exhaustively again.
Extensively, exhaustively. Dastardly bastards.
It proved unproductive. Nonetheless, the finding of the truck parts at Staunton, Massachusetts was to prove valuable break in the investigation. They're like, we got something. If we can just let's go back to where the truck's at. Two of the participants in the Brinks robbery lived in the Staunton area. After truck parts were found,
shit where you eat, man.
Right. After the truck was found, additional suspicion was attached to these men.
Of course it was.
These boys, they like to hang out around here a lot.
And they were already on our investigation list, so suspect list. Well, as the investigation developed and thousands of leads were followed to dead ends, the broad field of possible suspects gradually began to narrow. Among the early suspects was Anthony Pino, an alien who had been a principal suspect in numerous major robberies and burglaries in Massachusetts. Pino was known in the underworld as an excellent case man, which means he was casing the banks and checking out and all that.
He come up with the plans.
And it was said that the casing of the Brinks offices bore his trademark.
Oh, okay. What's his trademark?
I don't know. I'm sure they know, though.
All right.
Pino had been questioned as to his whereabouts on the evening of January 17th, 1950, and he provided a good alibi, though.
Ooh. I mean, you're not going to be a successful case man and not have good alibis.
Right.
The alibi, in fact, was almost too good.
You know what they say.
Pino had been at his home in the Roxbury section of Boston until approximately 7 p.m. Then he walked to the nearby liquor store of Joseph McGinnis. Subsequently, he engaged in a conversation with McGinnis and a Boston police officer. The officer verified the meeting. He's like, yeah, I was talking to him around 7.
All right.
The alibi was strong, but not conclusive. The police officer said he had been talking to McGinnis first, and Pino arrived later to join them. The trip from the liquor store in Roxbury to the Brinks offices would make about 15 minutes. Okay. So it's conceivable, right? Pino could have been at McGinnis's liquor store shortly after 7:30 on 17th of January 1950 and still have participated in the robbery.
It's true. Could have did what he had to do and knows that this cop hangs out at the liquor store around this time all the time.
Right.
So said, I got myself an alibi.
Look how smart that is, though. He's like, yeah, I'm talking to this guy and the police guy.
Popo and everything.
Well,
And what of McGinnis himself? Well, commonly regarded as a dominant figure in the Boston underworld, McGinnis previously had been convicted of robbery and narcotics violations. So this is the store owner that the cops just chatting with and
Right.
everything. So underworld sources describe him as fully capable of planning and executing the Brinks robbery.
Right.
He, too, had left his home shortly before 7 on the night of the robbery and met the Boston police officer soon after. If local hoodlums were involved, it was difficult to believe that McGinnis could be as ignorant of the crime as he had claimed.
I think McGinnis was there, and then Pino was like going, and then the cop was there. He was just like, all right, just be cool.
Right.
Talk to him like nothing ever happened, and McGinnis is like, yeah.
Or McGinnis, because it's his store. He knew that a cop comes around there all the
Right,
time, so he's
right.
like, this is what me and you will do.
That's also plausible. Well, neither Pino nor McGinnis was known to be the type of hoodlum who would undertake so potentially dangerous crimes without the best strong arm support available. So they're like not just going to do something like that and not be totally
Without have some
right.
firepower backup.
Right. Two of the prime suspects whose nerve and gun handling experience suited them for the Brinks robbery were Joseph James O'Keefe and Stanley Elbert Gusiora.
Gushora?
Gusiora.
But it's probably like Shora.
Gusiora.
Gushora.
Gusiora.
Gushora.
It's either
It's like Sammy Sosha. Not
either-
so. Yeah, Sammy Sosha. It's all that weird. So Shora
O'Keefe's definitely
or Gusiora,
O'Keefe's definitely
Irish.
Irish, and Gusiora's probably it sounds
Gusiora. That's Italian or something, right?
Right. What's this say? Gusiora. Gusiora.
Shora. Gusiora.
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 There it goes. Gusiora. Anyhow, O'Keefe and Gusiora reportedly had worked, air quotes,
Air quotes.
worked together on a number of workbooks.
Workbooks.
Worked together on a number of occasions.
Oh, okay.
Both had served prison sentences, and both were well known to the underworld figures on the East Coast. So all these guys in question, obviously, are in question for other possible crimes.
Well, right, but they were already on the suspect list, but now
Right.
it's getting a little bit closer to them. So O'Keefe's reputation for nerve was legend. Reports had been received alleging that he had held up several gamblers in the Boston area and had been involved in shakedowns of bookies. Like Gusiora, O'Keefe was known to have associated with Pino prior to the Brinks robbery. Both of these strong-armed suspects had been questioned by Boston authorities following the robbery, but neither had too convincing an alibi either. So, O'Keefe claimed that he had left his hotel room in Boston approximately. Everybody's leaving at 7, right?
Oh, about 7 o'clock.
About 7 o'clock. Following the robbery, authorities attempted unsuccessfully to locate him at the hotel. So they already, as soon as after the robbery was done, they already knew this dude was in town and went right for him, huh?
Right, wow.
His explanation was he had been drinking at a bar in Boston, and Gusiora also claimed to have been drinking that evening. Okay.
Well, here's maybe something that could be on both these guys' sides. The families of O'Keefe and Gusiora resided in the vicinity of Stoughton, Massachusetts.
No, it's not on their side. That's where they found the truck. And that's where Pino and McGinnis lived.
That's right. Yeah. Okay.
So now
maybe-
all four of these guys are connected to the area where the truck is
Oh,
found.
no. When the pieces of 1949 green Ford stake body truck were found at the dump in Stoughton on the 4th of March in 1950, additional emphasis was placed on the investigation concerning them. They're like, this is what we need to focus on, folks.
Yep.
Local officers searched their homes, but no evidence linking them with the truck or the robbery was ever found.
Well, at this moment.
Right.
In April 1950, the FBI received information indicating that part of the Brinks loot was hidden in the home of a relative of O'Keefe in Boston. A federal search warrant was obtained, and the home was searched by agents on April 27, 1950. Several $100s were found hidden in the house, but could not be identified as part of the loot.
I mean, come on. Several hundred.
Hidden, though, so
Right. So what?
from a different robbery, obviously, or
lot
from
of
a different holdup or something.
People hid money back then.
That's
1950.
true. Right. Could have been like a rainy day jar or something. You never know.
Especially in that part of Massey. Boston. Stoughton.
Stoughton and
Boston. And what else?
South Boston and stuff.
Yeah.
That's where the Irish.
Freaking Irish, man. June 2nd, 1950. O'Keefe and Gutierrez left Boston by automobile for the alleged purpose of visiting the grave of Gutierrez's brother in Missouri. Apparently, they had planned a leisurely trip with an abundance of extracurricular activities.
How do you rank that out of 1 to 10?
Right. They will be doing that when
I'm
they get
sure.
back. June 12th, 1950, they were arrested at Towanda, Pennsylvania. And guns and clothing, which were the loot from burglaries at Kane and Coudersport, Pennsylvania, were found in the possession. They're like,
So these
right.
quote unquote extracurricular activities were going around robbing other banks and stuff like that. Huh?
I'll take it.
Okay, well, following their arrest, a former bondsman in Boston made frequent trips to Towanda in an unsuccessful effort to secure their release on bail. September 8, 1950, O'Keefe was sentenced to 3 years at the Bradford County Jail at Towanda and fined $3,000 for violation of the Uniform Firearms Act.
Okay.
Although Gutierrez was acquitted of the charges against him in Towanda, he was removed to McKean County, Pennsylvania, to stand trial for burglary, larceny, and receiving stolen goods.
Uh-oh.
So on October 11, 1950, he was sentenced to serve from 5 to 20 years in the Western Pennsylvania Penitentiary at Pittsburgh.
5 to 20.
So these two guys are locked up, but still not for the Brinks crime, which you know they want.
Right. So
FBI's like, we'll get you for him anyway.
like, we'll at least lock them up for a little bit until we, you know.
At least they're in jail at least, right?
And we'll get that. We'll get that other crime on there, bud. You will serve that time, which will be more than 20 years probably.
I'm assuming so.
Even after these convictions, O'Keefe and Gutierrez continued to seek their release. Between 1950 and 1954, the underworld occasionally rumbled with rumors that pressure was being exerted upon Boston hoodlums to contribute money for these criminals' legal fight against the charges in Pennsylvania.
Let's contribute.
The names of Pino McGinnis, Adolph Jazz Maffey, first time hearing this guy, and Henry Baker, I think we heard of Henry Baker before,
Well, not in this story.
were frequently mentioned in these rumors. And it was said that they had been with O'Keefe on the big lie. I mean, the big job.
A big job. Well, despite the lack of evidence and witnesses upon which the court proceedings could be based, as the investigation progressed, there was little doubt that O'Keefe had been one of the central figures in the Brinks robbery. Pino was also linked with the robbery, and there was every reason to suspect O'Keefe. O'Keefe felt Pino was turning his back on him, and now that O'Keefe was in jail. So you know what happens. You know,
It always happens.
see, the good thing for the law side is these guys are in jail, and you know they're going in there telling them shit that this guy said and what this guy said. So now they're flipping. Yep.
Jeez.
That's how it works.
Well, you don't ever want to feel that you're not being treated fairly by your former partners,
Right?
especially when one's in jail and one's not.
Well, these guys are both in jail.
Not Pino.
O'Keefe.
Yeah, but not Pino.
Pino, yeah, he still went to jail, and
Oh, Pino went to jail?
yeah, remember Pino and oh no, not Pino. Gutierrez went to jail in the other county in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
O'Keefe is in jail right now.
Pino's
He felt
out.
Pino was turning his back on him. Right.
So that's even worse. Mm-hmm. It always happens that way, though. One guy goes out and you don't even know what it's like on the street since you've been gone. Fucker, guess what I mean here?
It's like in Goodfellas.
Right.
Come on, Karen. They don't care about us.
Both O'Keefe and Gutierrez had been interviewed on several occasions concerning the Brinks robbery, but they had claimed complete ignorance. Like,
Of course.
what's that?
Right. What's Brinks?
What's robbery?
What's an interview?
Jeez. In the hope that they claim complete ignorance, in the hope that a wide breach might have developed between the two criminals who were in jail in Pennsylvania and the gang members who were enjoying the luxuries of a free life in Massachusetts. FBI agents again visited Gutierrez and O'Keefe, even in their jail cells. However, they showed no respect for law enforcement. They're not gonna.
So like I said, they're attempting to flip them over and then get their testimony. So we knew that was going to happen. And pursuing the underworld rumors concerning the principal suspects in the Brinks case, the FBI succeeded in identifying more probable members of the gang.
When you know there's got to be at least 6.
There was the aforementioned Adolph Jazz Maffey, one of the hoodlums who allegedly was being pressured to contribute money for the legal battle of O'Keefe and Gusiora against Pennsylvania. Yeah, we know that. He had been questioned concerning his whereabouts on the day of the robbery, was unable to provide any specific account where he had been.
Oh, see, that's rough.
So this guy didn't even bother to have an alibi.
Didn't even try.
Right.
He's like, oh, did you get your story together? If they wouldn't want to talk to me, they'd done it by now. Thought wrong. Henry Banker.
FBI.
Shit. Yeah.
What do I do? Just tell me you don't remember.
All right. I do not recall that day. I'm a heavy drinker.
No,
you police.
you tell me.
You tell me. Anyhow. Oh, Hank Baker, another veteran criminal who was rumored to be kicking into the Pennsylvania Defense Fund, had spent a number of years of his adult life in prison.
Don't they all?
Right. He had been released on parole from the Norfolk, Massachusetts prison colony on August 22nd, 1949. It's a prison
whole ass colony.
Only 5 months before the robbery.
You know they can't stay out of prison long before they're on their next big score.
Well, apparently at the prison colony, Baker was serving 2 concurrent terms of 4 to 10 years, imposed in 1944 for breaking and entering and larceny, and for possession of burglar tools.
What kind of tools do you have, burglar?
Burglar tools.
Burglar.
Looks like a hammer to me. Or
probably had like a lockpick set or something like that. You know,
they had lockpick sets like crazy back then, dude. That was like a major thing. Even old Dick Tracy used to have them, didn't he?
Don't know. Never saw Dick Tracy.
At the time of Baker's release in 1949, Pino was on hand to drive him back to Boston.
There goes Pino.
I mean, when you're all together and
right.
Come on, guys.
I already know this. Questioned by Boston police on the day following the robbery, Baker claimed that he had eaten dinner with his family on the evening of the robbery and then left home about 7 p.m.
Yeah.
Jeez, couldn't these guys mix it up a little?
Right. I don't know. It was almost maybe closer to 8.
Just to walk around the neighborhood for about 2 hours. Since he claimed to have met no one and had to stop nowhere during his walk, he actually could have been doing anything between 7 and 9 on the night of the crime, obviously.
Yankin'.
Prominent among the other strong suspects was Vincent James Costa, who's the brother-in-law of Pino.
Okay. Oh, jeez.
So this dude's like, yeah, I left my house at 7 p.m. to walk around the neighborhood where absolutely nobody saw me, and I stopped absolutely nowhere. So really, I could have done anything in those 2 hours. So I don't have an alibi.
Right.
Jeez.
It'd be different if he was known to walk the neighborhood.
Right.
If they asked neighbors, like, hey, he walks all the time.
He went out as usual. If he was smart, if they were planning this robbery, like the beginning of the story said,
right,
where it was heavily planned,
right.
He would have done that for 2 or 3 months before.
Right.
Every day, leave his house at 7 and go on a walk.
Or around approximately 7.
Well, yeah, around 7. Right.
Costa was associated with Pino and the operation of a motor terminal and a lottery in Boston. So all these guys are connected to each other somehow with some sort of criminal activity. Extracurricular activities, as they would say.
What do they call that? 6 degrees of separation?
Exactly. He had been convicted of armed robbery in 1940.
Because of course he was.
Served several months in the Massachusetts State Reformatory and the Norfolk, Massachusetts prison colony. Also, he was in the prison colony as well. Costa claimed that after working at the motor terminal until approximately 5
Wait a minute. Okay, wait a minute.
Okay, so he goes,
He worked there until 5.
He's like, I was working at the motor terminal over there until about 5. And that was the 17th of January,
the night of the robbery.
He had gone home to eat dinner. Then he was like, it was probably around 7. I had to go back to work until about 9.
So no punch out card, no anything there that could have
I can prove that he was working from 7 to 9.
Right. Every single suspect so far, whatever they did that night, it was approximately 7 p.m. was when they left.
Yeah, but Pino's the only one with the good alibi.
Yeah, he was the one that went and talked to the cops with McGinnis.
Right.
So, jeez. The FBI's analysis of the alibis offered by the suspects showed that the hour of 7 p.m. on the night of the robbery was frequently mentioned. Well, thank you, cops. Right. You're putting together the same thing that we're putting together here, buds. O'Keefe had left his hotel at approximately 7. Pino and Baker separately decided to go out at 7. Costa started back to the motor terminal about 7. Other principal suspects were not able to provide any convincing accounts of their activities that evening, though. And since the robbery had taken place between approximately 7:10 and 7:27, it was quite probable that a gang, as well drilled as the Brinks robbers obviously were, would have had arranged to rendezvous at a specific time, about 7 o'clock. By fixing this time By fixing this time as close as possible to the minute at which the robbery was began, the robbers would have alibis to cover their activities up to the final
But they didn't,
moment.
though. There are so many holes in their alibis.
Jeez.
Wow. I mean, I guess if they're dealing with some stupid cops, and these guys weren't known criminals.
It took place from 7:10 to 7:27, and the cop says that he talked to Pino around 7:30.
Right.
And they said it only took 15 minutes from the Brinks robbery place to where the store was.
Right.
So he could have easily done the robbery
All right.
at 7:10, say, and then I don't know though, unless you left early. So it was probably got there a little bit after 7:30.
Yeah, he said it was around, right?
Right. I don't know, man. Criminals, dumb.
Because I'm a criminal. Any doubts which the Brinks gang had that the FBI was on the right track in its investigation were allayed when the federal grand jury began the hearings in Boston, 25th of November, 1952.
So now the federal grand jury is just going to decide, are we going to indict these?
Well, they got to see all the evidence, and
We
I'm
gonna
sure that
indict
judge
these
or that
fools?
grand juries are going to be like,
Why is everybody leaving at 7?
all right. And these guys are all known criminals.
Right. Every one of them has a robbery.
And a few of them are in prison right now for crimes.
Right.
So-
They got caught with stuff
Right.
from a robbery.
Right.
I mean, geez, dude.
I think we're going to have to take this case on, guys.
It's like this Family Feud. Do you want to pass or play? They're like, I think we'll play this time.
We're going to play this time.
We'll play this time, Steve.
We'll play this time, Steve. The FBI's jurisdiction to investigate this robbery was based upon the fact that cash, checks, postal notes, and the United States money orders of the Federal Reserve Bank and the Veterans Administration District Office in Boston were included in the loot. They're like, this is all federal stuff here, guys.
Federal Reserve Bank stuff was
Right.
taken, dude. That's a federal crime all day long.
I'd rather go to federal prison than state prison.
Well, still,
After nearly 3 years of investigation,
3 years.
the government hoped that witnesses or participants who had remained mute for so long might finally find their tongues before the grand jury. Unfortunately, this proved to be an idle hope.
Oh, of course.
You're not
it
going to
did.
get
They're all
that.
criminals. Why would they?
Right, and back then, people loved you, man.
And back then, the whole neighborhood knew who these people were,
Right, and they loved them.
probably, not, or feared them.
Or feared them.
One of the
Feared or
two.
loved. Or both.
Right. After
I love
completing-
fearing
I
him.
love fearing this guy. I fear loving him. After completing its hearings on January 9, 1953, the grand jury retired to weigh the evidence. In a report which was released on January 16, 1953, the grand jury disclosed that its members did not feel they possessed complete positive information as to the identity of the participants in the Brinks robbery because, one, the participants were effectively disguised,
Right.
and two, there was a lack of eyewitnesses to the crime itself, and three, certain witnesses refused to give testimony, and the grand jury was unable to compel them to do so.
I mean, I give them credit. They did 7 days deliberating, so that's a long time to deliberate.
Right.
A verdict.
Because even though the leaving at 7, everybody left at 7 is suspicious, and a couple of them lived in the same neighborhood where the truck was dumped, they have no DNA evidence, no
Nothing.
physical evidence linking any of them to the actual crime.
Nothing.
So what can you do?
Nothing.
Right.
You can't do anything. You know they're guilty.
Right.
But you got to follow the law.
You got to prove it, man.
Follow the law.
Prove it.
Right. 10 of the persons who appeared before this grand jury breathed much more easily when they learned that no indictments had been returned.
10 of the persons who appeared. Okay.
10 of them. Wow.
Yeah, they breathe easy. That's for sure.
Dang right. So these guys are like, yeah.
They're like, we didn't get indicted.
Except for O'Keefe and Gutierrez.
Well,
They're like,
that's for different ones. And
we're over here, but we're not getting
by
more
the
time.
but by this time, it's already 3-4 years into their sentences. So
Right.
one of them, O'Keefe's already almost out.
5 years, yeah.
So-
and then they know, hey, we're not getting no more time added
Right.
on. Okay, where we at? Following the federal grand jury hearings, the FBI's intense investigation continued. I don't think it can, though. They acquitted him, right?
They didn't acquit him. They just didn't have the evidence to get him.
Charge him, yeah, because grand jury.
They never went on trial, so it's not
Right.
like it's double jeopardy or anything. Or what is that?
Double jeopardy, yeah.
Where you can't charge the same crime twice.
Twice.
Yeah. So
The FBI's intense investigation continued under J. Edgar Hoover. We don't know about this guy.
this guy, dude.
This guy. J. Edgar Hoover was convinced that they had identified the actual robbers, but evidence and witnesses had to be found.
What we just said, Jay Edgar.
We already knew that, Edgar.
Come on, Jay. While O'Keefe and Gusiora lingered in jail in Pennsylvania, Pino encountered difficulties of his own.
Oh, no.
Born in Italy in 19... Oh, now we're going to get a backstory on Pino. Oh, jeez. Born in Italy in 1907, it's like a... Oh, jeez. He was a very young child when he entered the United States, but he never became a naturalized citizen. Oh, so they could deport his ass, too, huh? Due to his criminal record, the Immigration and Naturalization Service instituted proceedings in 1941 to deport him.
Oh, so 9 years after?
9 years before.
Right.
His
So it
crime
took
was in
9 years?
1950.
I know. So it took 9 years.
Well, this occurred while he was in the state prison at Charleston, Massachusetts, serving sentence for whatever he's done with the burglar tools and stuff.
All right.
So they didn't even convict him or send him back, apparently.
So they must have let him out of prison.
Yeah, they had to have. This country's had a a nice little history with illegal immigrants and breaking
Crime.
the law, dude.
Always have. Always will. Mm-hmm. That prison term, together with Pino's conviction in March of 1928 for carnal abuse of a girl. Oh, what's carnal abuse of a girl?
Abuse of a girl, dude.
Provided the basis for the deportation action. They're like, well, okay, that's enough.
It's like, you can rob people, you can do all this, but you will not carnal abuse a girl. Carnally abuse a girl.
Right,
dude.
I'm sorry.
Come on, man.
Pino determined to fight against deportation. Of
course.
He's like, I will not go back to Italy.
So he was Italian. So the Gusioria guy is obviously Italian, right?
I would have to say.
Wasn't he the brother-in-law or something? Which one was
no,
brother?
that
Wasn't
was the other
Gusiora
guy.
the brother-in-law?
No, brother-in-law was what's his face?
I think it was Gusiora.
It might be Gutierrez, but there's
Pretty sure.
another guy that was.
Yeah, there was Jazz, Maffey, and
Maffey was
Harry
brother-in-law,
Brink,
right?
Harry Baker or something.
Maffey was the brother-in-law, right?
I don't think so. I think it was Gusiora.
We'll find out here in a little while.
We sure will.
Pino determined to fight. Yep, he was determined he's going to fight deportation. In the late summer of 1944, he was released from the state prison and was taken into custody by immigration authorities.
Okay.
Ice had his ass. And AOC was like, no.
It's her grandma. AOC, senior.
Senorita.
Senorita Cortez.
During the preceding year, however, he had filled a petition for
He
pardon.
filed it.
Yep.
He probably filled it out too, yeah.
He filled out the application for to get a pardon in hope of removing one of the criminal convictions from his record.
Okay,
At
well,
least one.
At least one. In September 1949, his efforts to evade deportation was met with success. He was granted a full pardon by the acting governor of Massachusetts. Oh, I guess
an acting governor.
I bet you that guy's kicking himself, huh?
Right.
The pardon meant that his record no longer contained the second conviction. Thus, the Immigration and Naturalization Service no longer had grounds to deport him. So you could apparently have one conviction, but not two.
Or there was the carnal of the girl.
Well, neither or. Contain the second. Oh, yeah, the thing against the girl.
You're allowed to be here illegally.
If you rob places, but if you assault somebody,
Right.
specifically a woman, then we can convict you.
But either way, you're allowed.
Maybe like
you're
doing bodily harm to somebody or something.
Right, but either way, you're allowed to be here illegally.
Pretty much, yeah.
10th of January, 1953, following his appearance before the federal grand jury in connection with the Brinks case, Pino was taken into custody again as a deportable alien.
Oh, see, you know what they did? They were like, we can't get him in this grand jury
But now
conviction, but we'll deport his
he
ass.
keeps on showing up back in the court system. I think that's enough cause to get him out, right?
I bet you, too, that while he was in there, we'll keep you here in the United States if you just tell us that you're involved, what happened, who was involved, and we'll keep you here. We won't deport you.
Well, the immigration agency, their reasoning for this one now was that Pino had been arrested in December of 1948 for a larceny involving less than $100.
Oh, please.
Oh, no. They're just going to do some stupid stuff here just to get him out. He received a 1-year sentence for this offense. However, on the 30th of January, 1950, the sentence was revoked and the case was placed on file. So we're just going to...
So now look at this again. The crime took place what?
1948, 2 years ago.
No, the crime took place February 17th, right? 1950? Right?
January 17th.
So 13 days after the robbery, his sentence from 1948 was revoked and the case was placed on file.
Right, placed on file.
Huh. I bet you they're kicking themselves for that, huh?
Right.
Again, people are kicking themselves today.
They're like, well, we couldn't get him on that. What makes you think we're going to get him on this?
Right.
Put it in the file.
On January 12th, 1953, Pino was released on bail pending a deportation hearing. Okay, yeah, and again, he determined to fight using the argument that his conviction for the 48 larceny offense was not a basis for deportation.
Right.
Considering the precedent already set by the first time, and he's right. After surrendering himself in December 1953 in compliance with an Immigration and Naturalization Service order, he began an additional battle to win release from custody while his case was being argued. Adding to these problems was the constant pressure being exerted upon Pino by O'Keefe from the county jail in Towanda, Pennsylvania. So he's talking to O'Keefe.
Right.
And O'Keefe's like, dude, you better help me out here. Get me out of here. Dude, this situation. I don't like how you're treating me, or I'm going to spill the beans. You know,
Right.
that's what he's telling him. It's all unraveling for these guys.
Well, especially for O'Keefe and Gutierrez, because they've been in prison for 4 years now.
Yeah, but they got nobody else to blame but themselves for that one.
Yeah, that's true. And plus, they're off the hook for the other one.
As of now, right?
As of right now. In the deportation fight, which lasted more than 2 years.
So we're in the 1955 now. This robbery was 5 years ago.
Right. So his deportation court case lasted for 2 years, and he won. Finally, he won again. His case had gone to the highest court in the land.
Supreme.
Yeah, he was taking that off, so he probably lost a few times, and he kept on going up. 11th of April, 1955.
Why do they do that? That's stupid. Everybody knows every court you're going to put it to is going to deny it, and you're going to repeal it. So just go to the freaking Supreme Court already.
You can't go
That
to-
should be the first court that you should have an option.
I don't think you're allowed to go to the Supreme Court until you've exhausted all.
I know,
the
but
other-
Supreme Court should have that option. We're looking at the case already.
And
They
if-
should be like, well, we know that this court's going to deny it, this court's going to deny it, so might as well just send them up now.
Right. If you send them up and you lose, your case is going to be like doubled. That's your risk factor.
Well, not only that, they're not that's no, that's stupid, but they're wasting all these other resources on the other courts. It's going to be the same until they get to the Supreme Court
They're not wasting resources. These are all getting paid for. All these
by taxpayers.
by the freaking people in jail.
No, not
Yeah,
the time. Not the time of all the employees that work at the courthouse and all the
Yeah.
judges. And
They're paying their- they're paying
they're
their-
paying attorney fees.
They're paying attorney
Court
fees,
costs.
and then they got to play court costs.
Yeah, but they ain't paying the salaries though. Who do you think pays the salaries of these people?
It's true. And the court costs ain't going to cover anything.
Right.
That'll do lunch for a week.
So if it's a renowned case, well, I guess is this a renowned case? I guess it is immigration.
Right. And that's paid for
The
by.
Supreme Court should have somebody look at it like this is not going to pass any other court. It's coming to us anyways. Let's just take it on and get it over with.
Right. Well, anyway, it ended up going to the Supreme Court. September 11th, 1955, the Supreme Court ruled that Pino's conviction.
April 11th.
Right. April 11th. Did I say September?
You did.
Damn. April 11th, 1955. We already know that the Supreme Court.
Yes, they did.
They ruled that Pino's conviction in 1948 for larceny
Yes, we know what the place been put a file.
had not attained such finality as to support an order of deportation. They're like, I'm sorry. We would like to.
Pino said that at the beginning, guys. Another 2 years wasted.
Right.
Well, during the period in which Pino's deportation troubles were mounting, O'Keefe completed his sentence at Towanda, Pennsylvania. Told you, this guy's already out.
So 2 more years after he was getting pissed at Pino.
Oh, well, now he's released to McKean County, Pennsylvania. Authorities early in January 1954 to stand trial for burglary, larceny, and receiving
like
stolen goods.
Gutierrez when he got out.
That's the charges that Gutierrez got charged on.
Yeah, they were just waiting
Yeah.
because they're like, we're going to get you too, mofo.
Well, O'Keefe was also confronted with a detainer filed by Massachusetts authorities. The detainer involved O'Keefe's violation of probation in connection with a conviction in 1945 for carrying concealed weapons.
Really?
This dude is just in all sorts of legal
Right.
mumbo
And
jumbo.
once
huh?
you got caught with one little tiny little thing, all the
Everything
other
else,
ones-
they're like, yep, let's just now.
That's how you keep them in.
Now all these local districts and these police districts and stuff are passing them around like a drugged up whore at a frat party. Dude.
That's smart though. They're like, we know we can't get them on the major crime, but we got all this little petty stuff. We can keep them in
We can
prison
keep
for
them
like
afloat
10
in the prison
years.
system until we figure this shit out. At
Right.
least, right?
Right. So we got it. Yeah. Wow.
He's the prison system's bitch.
Prison system bitch right now. They're tossing around O'Keefe like they would do.
Drunken frat girl at a frat party, man, or
Exactly.
drunken college student at a frat party. Just passing her around. Sad. Not really, but still.
What are you gonna do? It's
funny.
Before his trial in McKean County, he was released on $17,000 bond.
Ooh, they let him out.
While on bond, he returned to Boston. January 23rd, 1954. He appeared at the Boston Municipal Court on the probation.
At least he's going to
violation
court and
charge.
stuff, and he's not running, I guess.
Right. I gotta go to Boston and get rid of this. When this case was continued until April 1st, 1954, O'Keefe was released on a $1,500 bond. So he's on a bond in two different cases.
Two different cases out. But I mean, he spent 5 years in jail or prison, so now he's walking the streets for a little bit.
Right. And he's getting a hold of his PO every day and all that good stuff. When this case was continued, it was April 1st, 1954.
He was released on the $1,500 bond.
During his brief stay in Boston, he was observed to contact other members of the robbery gang.
Oh, you moron.
They knew it. Like, watch, I bet it's going to be like 2 days. No, I think it's only like 3 hours.
I was going to say, within the first half a day, he's released.
They all got a bet on him and stuff.
Got a pool.
Right. He needed money for his defense against the charges in McKean County, and it was obvious that he had developed a bitter attitude toward a number of his close underworld associates.
Of course he did. Well, he returned to Pennsylvania in February 1954 to stand trial, and he was found guilty of burglary by the state court in McKean County on March 4th, 1954. He put an appeal in, and he was released on $15,000 bond. Who's the bondsman that keeps bonding this guy out?
You can be found guilty and put an appeal and be released. Screw that. You're found guilty.
Yeah, once you put it on appeal, though, your sentence doesn't hold up because you appealed it. They accepted the repeal.
I know there's a lot of people that are on appeal and are still in jail.
Apparently, they decided he wasn't a flight risk since he's been showing up for court and stuff. So,
right, that's true, yeah.
O'Keefe immediately returned to Boston to await the results of this appeal, and within 2 months of his return, another member of the gang suffered a legal setback. Jazz Maffey was convicted of federal income tax evasion. That income tax evasion served a 9-month sentence at the federal penitentiary at Danbury, Connecticut in June of 1954.
That's not bad.
9 months. It's
9
not
months
bad.
would do what? 5?
Right.
Underworld rumors allege that Maffey and Henry Baker were high on O'Keefe's list.
So O'Keefe's looking for some revenge on his fellow guys. He's like, if I'm going down...
It looks like he's not too mad at Pino anymore. But
I guarantee he's telling these guys...
You don't like Maffey or Baker.
Because they know they're all still being investigated, but I guarantee he's telling these guys, if I go down...
For more than... Yeah.
If I go down out of this, you guys are coming with. I'm spilling the beans and everything.
Did Gucciara get for that same crime?
5 to 20 years.
5 to 20, so... Yeah, he's going to do another 5.
At least, yeah.
Right. Wow. He could end up spreading. Yeah.
So, regardless, O'Keefe is going to jail for another 10, 15 years.
At least. And I already did 5. Anyhow, we're back to Maffey and Baker not being on O'Keefe's good list.
Nope.
Because they had beaten him out of a large amount of money. If Baker heard these rumors... He did not wait around very long to see whether they were true.
Yep.
Soon after O'Keefe's return in March of 1954, Baker and his wife left Boston on a vacation.
Air quotes. O'Keefe paid his respects, air quotes, to other members of the Brinks gang in Boston on several occasions in the spring of 1954, and it was obvious to the agents handling the investigation he was trying to solicit some money.
Right. He had to, right?
He was so cold and persistent in these dealings with his co-conspirators that the agents hoped he might be attempting to obtain a large amount of money, perhaps a share of the Brinks loot.
That's what I was going to say. Shouldn't he have a share of the loot?
That's what I'm saying. That's probably what he's doing. He's like, I want my money.
Right.
Where's my money, Brian?
Where's my money,
It's been 5 years, dude.
Where's my buddy?
It's been 5 years. Where's this money at?
Right. He should have interest on it.
Something.
For being in prison, for taking the fall.
It's ridiculous, dude.
During these weeks, O'Keefe renewed his association with the Boston racketeer, who had actively solicited funds in the defense of O'Keefe and Gucciara in 1950. Soon the underworld rang with startling news concerning this pair. It was reported that on May 18th, 1954, O'Keefe and his racketeer associate took Vincent Costa to a hotel room and held him for several $1,000s ransom. That's it. Several thousand. Do like 100,000 or something like that.
So they took Costa ransom.
Right.
Several $1,000s in ransom that he wanted. So.
Allegedly.
Right.
Allegedly, other members of the Brinks gang arranged for O'Keefe to be paid a small part of the ransom he demanded, and Costa was released on the 20th of May, 1954.
So now he's taking hostages and demanding his shit be paid, dude.
I mean, I'm kind of on O'Keefe's back right now.
I was
here.
gonna say, yeah.
This
What did they
is-
do? They should have paid his legal fees and all that shit.
His legal fees and give him his cut.
Right. They got almost $3 million.
Come on. But did they though? Were they able to trade in those money orders and all that?
Well, at least they still got $1.2 million in cash.
Right.
There's only 10 people.
He should have, and he should have what, $100,000 coming
At
his
least.
way.
At least.
At least $100,000 coming his way. Come on, guys. Come on.
Come on, guys. So now we got O'Keefe.
He's mad O'Keefe. He's a mad O'Keefe.
He's a mad O'Keefe because he's out on parole and awaiting appeal to go probably back to prison for 15 to 20 years.
Right.
And now he's like, I want my money. Now he's taking people hostages.
See, it was different when he was in prison because he's in prison.
Can't do nothing about it. Right.
Now when he's out, he's like, no, don't worry. When I get out, they're my boys. They're going to do me right.
I don't think so. I think he got out and immediately came to him and was like, what the hell, man?
Yeah.
There was tensions ever since he's been out of prison.
True.
So, yeah. Interesting stuff. And
Wait till Gutierrez gets out.
Right. Well, we'll see because that's the end of this story because we're only getting
Who's going to
started.
be coming out on top of this story? Is it going to be Pino?
I don't know. That's wow.
I think Pino so far has been the lucky one.
Pretty much,
Is it
yeah.
going to continue that way, or is O'Keefe going to come out on top?
Is he going to be the guy that gets immunity or something?
Or are they all going to?
I just got a strong feeling that O'Keefe over here is going to be offered some sort of deal to tell on everybody about it. So, yeah, that's only part one, guys, and we got probably more than what we just did for our part two. There's no way we can do a 2.5 hour episode of this. We're already at almost an hour here. So, with that, kind of a cliffhanger here because now we got ransoms and kidnappings and shit's about to go down and nobody's even officially charged. Nobody at this point, nobody's even officially charged with the Brinks robbery at this point.
Been 5
This
years.
is 5 years later.
5 years.
Oh my! So
They tried everything they could do to deport people to
they did everything. Put them in prison for other things, and they ain't getting nowhere. But
work.
We shall see what happens in part two. With that being said, this episode should have been on Patreon in video form and unedited, but you know, things happen, and we had to cut short our first recording of it and had to pick up the next day. But it is still only the middle of December, and our Patreon.com/bang dang officially launches January 1st, 2022, where from there on out, every episode of Outlaws and Gunslingers will be on video, will be unedited. So you're going to be hearing a lot more. Like for this episode, we've already recorded for like an hour and 40 minutes. And you probably will get an hour of what will actually stay in the edited podcast episode. So that's an extra 40 minutes there that you guys are going to get on Patreon, as well as our other shows, Monday Night Watch Along and Lee and Corey on the Case, all in video, all unedited. And like
Check out
I said,
the trio of Christmas episodes, though.
trio of Christmas episodes. Lee and Corey on the Case, wherever you get your podcast, Monday Night Watch Along, wherever you get your podcasts. And with that being said, we'll be back next week for part two of the Great Brinks Robbery.
Excited. This is like, I've been excited for every part two.
I know.
Billy the Kid.
All of them. Wyatt, part 17 through 20.
Right. Bighorn.
Bighorn. We did a few part twos up in there. I think, who else had part twos? A lot of them did. Wild West ones, especially.
A lot of Wild West ones.
With that being said, we're the Monster Michiganders with
Bang Dang.